I mean, if I were in Ianto's position, I'd probably be unwinding at the pub a lot too. This is a commissioned review. This is a Torchwood audio, which is a first for me. And it's called Broken. This is an interesting piece. Not sure I love the title, just because it kind of feeds into the idea of people traumatized or depressed as being quote unquote broken, which is not a framing I am fond of at this point. I know it's still a common sentiment, especially in entertainment, but I'll let that go because this is quite good. Structurally, this is really interesting because to place it in the timeline of events relative to Torchwood, it takes place across a lot of events. What this is a series of scenes of Ianto going to his local pub and trying to unwind and cope with the job. And each scene takes place after known adventures, after the events of Cyberwoman, after the events of Countryside. Things get cited specifically that happened that at Torchwood. And so we know he's coming back here again and again and again and again. And aside from just kind of being a cool gimmick, this actually kind of plugs some holes, especially in regards to Ianto, which is that a lot of times he didn't seem to properly process what he went through. I mean, Jack, we know, just shuts down, as did Owen to a certain extent. Tosh would try and cope, and we spent a lot of time with Gwen and saw how she did or didn't successfully cope. But Ianto, in between focus episodes, just seemed to carry on. This is a good exploration of how this stuff actually impacted him. And it's really well done. The performance is excellent. We do also have Jack does appear. John Barrowman is in this as well. But the focus is on Ianto very strongly. The other major recurring character is the woman who owns the pub, who Ianto gets to know. And he has to be careful about how he talks about things. He has to talk in vague terms, just generally about his boss, at the office. Oh, it's real stressful. This kind of thing sort of happened without going into specifics because then he'd have to retcon her. But it is really interesting, both logistically in terms of how it fits into the timeline of Torchwood, but also just as a character piece, as an examination of Ianto's ongoing trauma. The thing is, usually when you get an exploration of trauma in, fiction at all, really, it is focused largely on trauma from something pretty specific. Here it's ongoing. Every time Ianto goes back to that office, something happens. Or at least it certainly seems that way. And so we see that some things that he comes back from, he copes with better than others. Some things just feel a little off. Some things really leave him shaken. And it's a different response every time, and appropriately so. It's a really good look at somebody trying to move forward who is working in a job that really nobody should have. It's quite interesting. And it's really good. If you like Torchwood, and like I said, it falls between. I didn't catch every specific reference, partially because it's been a while since I saw Torchwood. So that's why I can't cite every episode that gets referenced here. But even for someone who is operating on very faded memories at this point, like decade plus memories of these episodes, I still caught certain key stuff. It's made clear enough where if you've got any memory at all, I don't think you need a refresher to appreciate this. Though, if you are more familiar with the ins and outs of Torchwood episode to episode, you're probably going to like this even more. So I am going to recommend it. And I'm also going to talk spoilers a little bit because there's some stuff that happens towards the end that it's good. Well, it's fine, but part of me wants to say it was unnecessary, but then another part of me is like, well, if they didn't have that, how else would they end this? And I don't really have an answer for that. But that is spoilery. So that's your warning. If you have not already listened to Broken, you have been warned. So, coming back with spoilers. The woman who owns the pub, she turns out to be kind of in league with this alien slaver. So she runs a pub. She's used to hearing people spill their sorrows to her. And so she finds the ones with no hope and says, hey, I have someone to introduce you to who will send you somewhere where you don't have to deal with any of the pain of this world anymore. And she frames it as a good thing, as it being almost heavenly. The reality is that this alien sends them off to be slave labor. That's the reality. And initially, it's believed that maybe she didn't realize that because it's all obfuscated and maybe she didn't know. But then she's like, oh, no, she knew. She knew. But still has a view of people where, like, look, they're not doing anything with their lives. The least they can do is make themselves useful to somebody. So the reason I'm kind of torn on this is because while it does rightly continue to center Ianto in this final conflict and, confronting her and this alien, at the same time, it feels tacked on for want of a climax because this really is kind of a day in the life. It's a slice of life, well, at various slices of Ianto's existence. What it was like after this day, after that day. And that's really good stuff. But the thing is, how do you end? How do you end a story like that? How do you end a story where really all it's doing is plugging holes and giving you glimpses between the scenes, sort of? I don't know. And I don't think the creators on this one did either. So they put this on. Now, it's not like it undermines the themes. It doesn't undo anything. It's not actively damaging to the story, but it is an obligatory climax with an alien foe. The story didn't need that. But it did also need an ending, and I don't have a better one to offer. So, the other thing worth noting is that, regardless of what you think of John Barrowman at this point, I'm kind of done with and exhausted by him, but his chemistry with Gareth David Lloyd is very good. It's still very good. And the two of them play off each other well, and this does a good job of building that relationship, but also showing the tension in that relationship. They're not together yet at the time this takes place. There's a lot of tension between them, and it's very well played. So that's a nice thing as well. It's kind of a nice bonus on top of everything else. But like I said, my slight reservations about the ending aside, even that, it's not like, oh, the ending blew it. No, it just didn't add much. It was just a way to end it. But it's still really good, and it's just a fascinating listen. It was, especially for me, who doesn't really love the idea of going back and rewatching Torchwood properly. Like, I don't think I want to do that. But at the same time, it was kind of cool to get a little thrill out of hearing the references and being like, oh yeah, that. And so like getting those little pops of memory without having to revisit entire episodes, that was just kind of cool. And overall, like as you would expect from anything Big Finish related, it's well produced, it's well acted, it's well written, it's a good piece of audio drama. It's good stuff. If you like Torchwood, especially if you like Ianto, you've never listened to it, I recommend you do so. Broken! What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon's what pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living. Was also the way I was commissioned to review this. So you can take a look at options on there. But even if you are not up for that, well, like, share, subscribe also help me out. But don't worry too much about that either. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. And now my thanks to my highest supporters on Patreon. Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfula, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Emu Delkey, Leo the Boyd, Becky Sparks, Fernabilax, the Poodle, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Tim Price, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, Shayla Gourlay, and Rosalind Bennett. Thanks for your support. And if you want to get your name in the credits, check out the rewards on the Patreon.